Here we are again, 2 months before the playoffs. What do you think the point of difference is this season compared to last?
I think we're better prepared this year. I think that's in a number of areas. I think the team is stronger. We obviously recruited quite heavily over the summer for this season, and players coming in like Perenisi, Ian Evans, Dwayne Peel, all these people have increased the quality of the team without a doubt. But I think they've also brought something else, which is added leadership to the club. I think we suffered last year, particularly in the playoffs, by losing a number of players who were our leaders at that stage, and therefore I think this year we're much stronger in the leadership department. So I think we've got an edge there. And the other thing, I think we're fitter as a group. I think we strengthened the training and strength and conditioning departments over the summer, and I think that's showing through in the way that we play, in the way that we play the game. So I think I feel happier this year. Obviously, it's going to go down to the wire. We always know that, but I think we're well prepared for it this year.
After a number of seasons in the Championship, more than perhaps you'd have liked, how difficult is it to market the Championship to supporters now when they know the structure, they know that effectively it is 4 games at the end of the season?
It's difficult, there's no doubt about that, and in fact probably going to Ashton Gate has been a great thing for us in that respect, in that it's been something new, it's been something different, and the supporters have really taken to Ashton Gate, and therefore we've managed to generate a lot of enthusiasm by being there for the ordinary Championship games, and the crowds have been terrific.
Planning well underway for next season. We've already seen the likes of Mark Jones, Tom Varndell come in. There's been whisperings that these guys might be on get-out clauses in their contracts, whereby if we don't achieve promotion, is that something that is the case?
I think these whispers were around this time last year when we were bringing in players, and we've seen during this season that everybody has stayed the whole season and played all the way through. There's always going to be the odd occasion where you have to offer something to a player to bring him in, particularly from the Premiership. But I think what we've done is brought in players who want to be at the club and want to play for the club and achieve what we want to achieve.
The rhetoric sometimes in the media is about Bristol being big spending Bristol and bringing in players on overinflated wages. Is that something that frustrates you as someone who plays a key role in those negotiations and contracts? And how true is that statement?
It doesn't really frustrate me. It's sort of nature of the business, I think, really. We seem to be associated with every player in every club around the world at times. But I think anybody who's looking to strengthen their squad will be associated with good players if they're available or likely to become available. As far as salaries are concerned, I don't think that's the case, actually. I think people come not only for the money. We don't tend to want those players anyway. We want people who want to buy into the vision that we've got and to play for Bristol. And we have to pay market rate, yeah, but I don't think we're beyond that.
There's been news in the press recently about the prospect of ring fencing coming into play the season after next. Is that something that you support?
I think we're strong supporters of increasing the size of the Premiership. I think it's shown this year that there are 2 clubs clearly in the Championship that are a slightly different level to everybody else. So we're strong supporters of increasing the size of the Premiership. As far as ring fencing is concerned, I think there always needs to be a way for a club to come through in the way that sort of Exeter did a few years ago. So I think ring fencing might not be quite the right term, because I think there always needs to be a way for a club to make it into the Premiership. But certainly an expansion in the league is something we're very strong on.
How does Premiership shares work with Bristol now? What's the benefit of us having Premiership shares?
Okay, well, there are various classes of shares in the Premiership, and one of the classes is a P share, which is a permanent share, which were awarded to the sort of founding members of the Premiership, and we still hold those shares. Firstly, it provides us with income, and secondly, it means that we're at the table when the negotiations are going on. We're one of the shareholders of the club, so it's very important to us.
Does on-field performance have any impact on those shares? Let's say, playing devil's advocate, Bristol were in the Championship for the next 5 years. Does there come a point where Premier Rugby can say, actually, we want those shares back?
Yeah, we saw a couple of years ago where Exeter purchased the P shares from Leeds, and there's a mechanism whereby if you are out of the Premiership for a number of years and another club is in the Premiership for a number of years who doesn't have P shares, then that club could acquire ours. But can't happen at the moment because there's no one in the Premiership who hasn't got shares, who's been there the required amount of time.
Okay. EQP was a subject that was a pretty hot topic at the end of last month, and it has impacted on selection at times this season. How important is the EQP funding to the club, and what is EQP?
Okay, EQP is English qualified players, and every player in our squad has a status which is either he's eligible to play for England or he isn't. Now, it's not just down to place of birth, it can be achieved in a number of ways. So obviously if you've played for another nation, someone like David Lemmy, he can't be English qualified. He will never be English qualified. Whereas some players, maybe Gareth Moore, who is a little bit Welsh perhaps, but through his parents he's English qualified. So you know out of your squad which are English qualified and which aren't. And then to obtain our funding that we get from the RFU, we have to play an average of 16 English qualified players in our matchday squad of 22 each calendar month. So it can be a few less or a few more each game, but over the calendar month it has to average at least 16 for us to get our monthly funding. The
move to Ashton Gate has been really positive. Were there any concerns for you initially in the summer, because it could have potentially been quite a divisive move for some of our supporters?
Yeah, we certainly had concerns, particularly after not achieving promotion last year. Obviously we had a lot of supporters in North Bristol who were very used to going to the Man, either walking there or whatever. And I think we had some fears about the fact that we thought we would lose some of those people. But actually, from the first game down at Ashton, I think the experience for people was good. And, we helped people by putting on bus services and things to get there. And the whole move has just worked out incredibly well for us, I think.
The average attendance up by 2,000, I mean, that's probably better than you could have ever imagined for a first season.
Absolutely. I think what we've found is that there's a lot of people in South Bristol, and probably football supporters, who like going to Ashton Gate, very happy going there, and they've tried rugby, gone to a couple of games, and found they enjoy it. And they just like sport, and they like coming to the rugby as well now, which is great.
When you see the CGI videos of the new stadium, it's impossible not to get excited by it. Is there a case for a training ground redevelopment as well?
I think that's something that we're looking at. I think we've been quite open about that. We've been at Clifton here now for 6 or 7 years. It's a good facility, but we'll always be sharing it with other people, which has its drawbacks. So we are looking at our options, both for the first team and for the academy.
The redevelopment process is complex and can cause disruption. And again, going into the new campaign, that'll be the case with the Williams stand coming down. But it's important for everyone to see the bigger picture, isn't it? Because a season from now, we will be in a fully finished stadium.
Yeah, parts of the build are very complex. We saw at our recent game against Nottingham on the Friday evening, when they had to close the Dolman stand, that caused some problems. And I apologise to some of the supporters who had a bit of a rough evening that evening. But I think we're probably at the most complex phase of the building now, in that there's South Stand being built and there's redevelopment to the Dolman. Once we get through that phase and get to the end of the season, we're through the worst in lots of ways, in that we will have a completely new stand in the south of the ground. The Dolman will have been redeveloped and the Atio is what it is. And then next season there's just one building site for the new Williams stand. So I think it'll be a lot easier next season, and we'll have a 16,000 capacity stadium next season, with 2/3 of it having been done.
When Chris was asked what would make him happy as chairman, he said winning the European Cup. When Steve Lansdown was asked, he said a full stadium, Bristol versus Bath, a stadium that people can be proud of. What is it for you as chief executive, where you can say, do you know what, I'm happy with where we are, particularly as someone who oversaw the dark times in 10-11?
Yeah, I'm happy with where we are now. I think we've come an awful long way. I think the move to Ashton Gate's gone very well. I won't look quite as far forward as that. I'll look to the end of May, and I know what I want to happen by the end of May.